and welcome to the Hot Lap. Happy Easter, happy Monday, bank holiday if you are celebrating that. I'm recording this on Easter Sunday in the evening, but that's by the by because I want to talk about whether Ferrari made the correct decision in getting rid of Carlos Sainz. It's been doing the interwebs, and this is kind of off the back of an article from planetf1.com saying Carlos Sainz, is he messing everything up at Ferrari after this political Lewis Hamilton play? I don't really think it's a political play with Lewis Hamilton. It's kind of like a signing that, let's be fair, at the time, and I think still now, made sense. But it says here, former F1 driver Christian Danner believes Carlos Sainz is now messing everything up at Ferrari. Okay, yes. I mean, who's Christian Danner? A lot of people are saying, yeah, fair enough. But he makes an interesting point. As we know, Ferrari confirmed the signature of Lewis Hamilton ahead of the F1 2024 campaign. And that move taking effect from 2025. He's going to be in red overalls. Unfortunately, even before the season started, Carlos Sainz knew he was going to be unemployed, which really sucks for him, let's be fair. But because of the way he is, despite obviously that appendicitis, he has done amazing. Let's be fair. He has done gangbusters. He's set the gear to, the gear stick to absolute maximum overdrive, and he's doing very well, winning the Australian Grand Prix. So he completed the podium at the opening race of Bahrain. As we know, he missed the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and won the Australian Grand Prix. As we know, Hamilton made a poor start to his final season with Mercedes, finishing pretty much no higher than P7. And Danner believes Sainz is making a serious mess of how Ferrari planned for this to go. Has he? He said at the moment, Carlos Sainz is messing everything up. He said, firstly, you've signed the wrong driver for next year, which I don't think so. Hamilton is lagging behind. Yes, he is. Lagging behind. Secondly, if you want Hamilton, you've kept the wrong one because I'm faster. And that's pretty much what Carlos Sainz's statement is saying to them. Albeit, let's be honest, we've got a 3-race run, 2-race run between the two. And it's not as, obvious black and white as Mr. Danner says. But he says, if I, as a future number one driver, am blown away by the fire driver, that's difficult. He's not really been blown away, but Sainz goes at it with a commitment, a joy, and an aggressiveness that I really like. It also requires a fervent attitude. Now it's me and nobody else. You can see that not only in his eyes, but in every corner. This guy clearly is in love with Sainz, describing Ferrari's swoop for Hamilton as highly political. I don't understand. Danner believes that Sainz is proving to team boss Fred Vasseur that he went too early in pulling the trigger on the Hamilton move. I mean, first of all, Sainz is an absolute amazing driver. He is a top line driver, albeit Ferrari feel, and they have more data than we do available, that he is not as good as Charles Leclerc. Also, many people think that, okay, Hamilton's had a really, really bad start to the season, and at the moment, based on current evidence, you're only as good as your last race, according to the media. So Lewis Hamilton sucks. Carlos Sainz is the best in the world. I think Carlos Sainz is up there. He troubled Max Verstappen at Toro Rosso, let's be fair. And if you were to go to Red Bull, I think you'd trouble Verstappen again, a lot more so than Paris. Would he beat Verstappen? I don't think so. Verstappen has that massive advantage of Red Bull being his team and knowing everyone, which Carlos Sainz will have to redo. But I think Carlos Sainz is underrated in terms of the paddock. Do I think he's as good as Leclerc? No. But why do we not think he's as good as Leclerc? Well, let's get into the stats then, shall we? I mean, here are the stats. I'm going to try. Can I make them a bit? No, there we go. This is about as close as we can make them. So this is head-to-head performances. As you can see, it's a orange for Charles Leclerc and red for Carlos Sainz. One race is essentially 1 to 100, as you can see here on that wonderful graph that we've got. It is very close, but Charles Leclerc is ahead. So if we look now from 2021, when they were actually teammates, Carlos Sainz did beat Charles Leclerc in 2021 on 169 to 171.5. That was thanks, I think, the 0.5 to the Belgian Grand Prix. However, and here's the caveat: in 2022, this is the season that potentially counted because it began as the season where we thought Ferrari were going to win the championship. And here is the kicker, I think, for Carlos Sainz. I appreciate. Even in terms of seasons, I think one swallow doesn't make a summer. Jenson Button outdrove Lewis Hamilton in 2011. But is Jenson Button a better driver than Lewis? No. But in 2011, yeah, he was. Overall, as I said, no. So, it does come with a few pinches of salt, but 308 points for Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz 246. I mean, that's fairly significant. And Leclerc won a few more races. And if we remember the Carlos Sainz race in Silverstone, the one race he did win, he very much lucked into that. Although he did very well, he definitely deserved the podium. But it was Ferrari's really bad strategy. I think they screwed over Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz, to be fair to him, took advantage of that. And also Verstappen went out. So when we look at last year, it was a lot closer last year. 206 for 200. However, Carlos Sainz, when it counted then, he beat the Red Bulls and he won the Singapore Grand Prix. But what a lot of people forget about that Singapore Grand Prix is the fact that Carlos Sainz, when he was out front, Charles Leclerc pretty much sacrificed his entire race to help Carlos Sainz win. That was because in qualifying, where Charles Leclerc normally reigns supreme in terms of his speed, everyone thinks he is potentially the fastest man on track. He didn't do it when it counted. Now, obviously, 2024 is currently a massive outlier, simply because we've got a 47 for 40, but Carlos Sainz missed Saudi Arabia, and you can make a really good argument that Sainz would be leading that Drivers' Championship. Having said that, in Bahrain, it was Charles Leclerc with a brake problem that allowed Carlos Sainz to beat him. And to be fair to Charles Leclerc, in Australia, he looked a lot better than Carlos Sainz until the time it counted. And by his own admission, Leclerc said, yep, Sainz has done a much better job. So based on what I've seen so far, I still would pick Charles Leclerc and I still would pick Lewis Hamilton. Having said that, we could have a few more races, and we could be having a completely different conversation. I think the biggest one for me is in 2022 when they had a championship winning car. It was very much Leclerc at the front, and Leclerc lost so many points because of silly Ferrari strategies, and also making mistakes. But Carlos Sainz also makes mistakes. So that's kind of like that's by the by. I mean, 2021, as I said, was for the pair was quite the close season for them. But 2022, as you can see here, it is Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz. I mean, their points, yeah, it was just getting big, getting bigger and bigger. So head-to-head stats for the seasons. So, in which both Carlos Sainz and they both competed. Obviously, that's a tiny bit unfair, but Leclerc, let's not forget, has 23. As you can see it, 23 pole positions. Both of them have done 127 to 126. We're comparing. Point per Grand Prix, 8.91, 7.23 for Carlos Sainz. And if we remember, Carlos Sainz, yes, he was in at McLaren, albeit you can make a good argument that McLaren wasn't too bad in 2021 at all, was it? My mistake. He was in McLaren in 2020. That car was good in 2020. I digress. I completely went blank there. I do apologise. But yeah, I mean, this is the interesting thing: is 9 fastest laps for Leclerc, 3 for Carlos Sainz. None of them have been champions, but they both won races. Head to head, Leclerc leads from 68 to 57. So I mean, when you look at it all, it's very much Leclerc leading when you look at those stats. GP positions head to head. So I don't know where all this is coming from. Oh no, you've made the wrong decision. Things change. Stats obviously are very fluid going forward. We don't know what is going to happen going forward. But I do think it's very clear that Ferrari signed Lewis Hamilton not just because of the fact that he's Lewis Hamilton. He is a massive brand, and if you know, yes, they had a good quarter, but the stocks went up purely by signing Lewis Hamilton. Now, I've absolutely no doubt if Leclerc completely destroys Hamilton, maybe he's only around for a year or two, but I still think it's worth a shot to get one of the best drivers currently, I believe, are still on the grid. And as you know, qualifying is not necessarily Hamilton's forte, despite his record of poles. It's very much race pace. And I think both Sainz and Charles Leclerc make more mistakes than Lewis Hamilton does, obviously, despite the age gap. And that's something Leclerc really needs to sort out. And both these drivers, here's the thing, on the day you want, based on their current evidence, on the day you want a driver head-to-head championship decider out of the grid, which driver are you going to, out of all the grid, which drivers are you going to choose of the current grid? And I probably wouldn't choose either of them at the moment, because of the mistakes. I'd choose a Lewis, a Max, a Fernando before I'd probably choose, one of these two. Although I do rate them up, higher than at the moment. I think even Lando Norris, obviously he's not won a race, and he does seem to make mistakes, a lot more mistakes when it comes to the moment. Leclerc, both of them are absolute class. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens going forward. So that's pretty much I just wanted to show you the stats between the two, and the fact that I do think Ferrari have made the correct decision, albeit I do feel it's very close, and I do think Carlos Sainz is still one of the most underrated drivers in Formula, and has been really since McLaren. I mean, yes, he did beat, he showed Lando Norris the way, albeit Norris was a rookie, but he still showed him the way. I think at Toro Rosso, even though Verstappen was the chosen one, I think Carlos Sainz could have him rattled at times, and would do so if he were to be signed at Red Bull. But this is going to be one of the fascinating stories going through the 2024 season, coming into the 2025 season, is where does Carlos Sainz go? At the moment, unless Max Verstappen chooses to leave Red Bull, I think he is at the top of the party in terms of where he wants to go. I imagine all the teams are going to be having one eye on him, particularly if Max Verstappen secures his spot or stays at Red Bull, particularly obviously with all the issues going on there. So that's just our take on it. If you disagree, let us know down below. If you liked it, let us know down below. Or even subscribe. If you made it to the end, you are an F1 champion. In our eyes. If you made it to the end and subscribe, you are a multiple world champion in our eyes. Anyway, thank you very much. If you're seeing this over the Easter holidays, have a really, really good one. And our rally debrief for Safari, because it's a bit late and I'm really, really tired, that'll be done this week. I will try and get hold of Chris again, so we'll hopefully do an awesome rally debrief there, and much more. We've now finished, by the time of recording, we finished our F1 1995 Martin Brundle season. Have a good look. It's all the ones in the entire playlist now are available. I probably put them all together for one big video in the end. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.